Hello everyone, welcome to another Gin Opinion. I'm Lloyd Barwick and today we're off on another one of our distillery visits, this time to the Nodding Donkey Distillery in the heart of Chichester, owned by Jamie and Nichola Jarrold. And you see in front of me Jarrolds Gin and Jarrolds Slow Gins. So we're off to see, firstly, Jarrolds London Dry Gin, and this is very much a London Dry in the traditional sense, a beautiful gin. And they also produce not one but two slow gins. The first of which is their year-round slow. The slows for this one are purchased, but they also make a limited edition with berries that they forage, that I know Nichola forages, and I'm sure she'll tell you all about that when we get there. So there we are, Jarrolds Gins. We're off to Chichester. Let's go and find out how they do it. Good to go? Right, hello everyone, welcome to Gin Opinion, and we're here this morning at the Nodding Donkey Distillery right in the heart of Chichester with Jamie and Nichola Jarrold, who jointly own the Nodding Donkey Distillery. So firstly, folks, how did you come into gin? What brought you into gin? Because I know you have proper jobs, if
yeah,
that's
absolutely
the right
we do, yeah.
So what brought you here to gin?
There wasn't really a eureka moment, to be honest. We used to live up on the east coast of Scotland many years ago. We had a really nice garden up there, which we had lots of lovely trees and vegetables and fruit in, and we used to make a lot of our own stuff, bottle it, jar it, preserve it, all sorts of things. When we came down here, obviously we don't have the same sort of space, but we still used to make, I used to make my own beer quite a lot, and was really keen on actually starting up a microbrewery about 13 years ago down at the Chichester Canal Basin. But when I looked at the building, that was pulled from under my feet because the owners actually decided that they were going to buy it, or the renters decided they were going to buy it themselves. So it's really just something that's been in the background for us quite a long time ago, and we just thought that we would actually, when the gin resurgence came along, the sort of cocktail scene came back up, we thought, I think we could do that. So, yeah.
And it's quite creative, the whole process, from designing all the bottles and the labels, doing the building, which we're very practical people. We did a lot of this ourselves. Laid all the concrete, put all the joists in, all the steels. We actually did ourselves, which I was very impressed that we could do that.
Which has created a really beautiful distillery.
It's a lovely room to be in.
We really wanted somewhere nice to work and to spend our days.
It certainly is,
yeah,
isn't it?
Great,
It's a lovely,
we're
lovely
very pleased with it.
Lovely
pleased with it.
And dominating the space, of course, is your beautiful still. German made or Dutch
German made?
German
made, from a little village called Eislingen, just outside Stuttgart. Which is home also, this is a Kotha, Ulrich Kotha still, but it's also home, Eislingen is also home to Carl Stills, who are another big brand. They're almost across the road from each other. But it's a lovely piece of kit. The guys at the factory were absolutely fantastic. We had a good tour around the factory. Spent a lot of time with them talking about the process, the build process, the gin distilling process. They were absolutely invaluable to us. They gave us some hugely useful pointers for making what we consider to be a fabulous gin.
Right. And how long now have you been making Jarrolds Gin? When did the first batch come off?
So it was actually about 2 years ago this month. Although the process before, we've only been open just over a year ago in March, and the process of building the building, getting the bottle design done, the website done, everything took about 2 years before we actually opened. So it was a little bit longer than we anticipated.
Yes, quite a lot longer.
But yeah, so we actually ran our first batch about 2 years ago, almost exactly, and then opened, as I said, in March of last year.
Right. And very successful you've been as well.
Yeah, it was a great first year for us. Of course, being Chichester's only distillery, created a lot of interest with local people. The quality of the gin. So we won a Silver Outstanding Award at the 2018 International Wine and Spirits Competition just 4 months after we opened, which we're absolutely delighted with, of course. So the combination of that, the fact that we were so new, right in the centre of Chichester, has really captured the imagination of a lot of local people, and so it's been a good first year for us. We're expanding nicely out of the county, so we're in a lot of places along the south coast and north as well. It was a great year. It's been a very busy year because, as you mentioned earlier on, we have proper jobs too. So juggling all of that is a bit of a challenge, and it keeps us both extremely busy.
And we do everything on this site.
Yes.
So we do all the bottling here, all the labelling, everything is done actually here.
The machine is just off shot there in the corner.
Yeah.
And everything is beautifully laid out for a very slick production process.
Yeah, it has to be. And it kind of changes as well depending on what we're doing. When we're distilling, everything's very clear and open. There's very minimal items in here normally. But when we're bottling, everything's full up of bottles, and we're
lots of empty boxes everywhere.
In between the two sort of points, the bottling machine and where we're capping them off. It works pretty well for us, and again, that was part of the reason for going for a gin distillery, because we didn't want something that was going to at this point going to commit us financially to a massive. I mean, this is big enough, but to a massive outlay in terms of buildings or commitment on rents and things like that, and of course a microbrewery would have required far more space, whereas we can pretty much do what we need to do all in this space. Yeah.
So on to the gin then, Jarrolds. Now I know you wanted to create and have created a very traditional London dry gin.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a very good one, and we'll come on to it in a moment. But you use 7 botanicals in your London dry.
Yep.
And you macerate 5.
5 of them.
And you vapour infuse 2.
We do. That's
right. Could you tell us, Jamie, just a little bit about the process, how you do a day's distillation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe?
So I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. The night before, what I do is I put the grain neutral spirit into the still with some water. I take that down to 60% ABV. For the maceration. Then 5 of the botanicals go into the liquid at 5 in the morning, and then I go back to bed. So once
to the beach.
Also the beach, sometimes to the beach. Yeah, sometimes to the beach with the dog for a swim in the summer, which is nice. About 8 o'clock, I come up and to the 2 botanicals that go into the basket are calamus root. And Persian lime. Persian lime is one of our key flavour profiles in the gin. It gives a really lovely citrus note, smoky citrus note. So at 8 o'clock, I'm opening up the Persian limes, picking out the pips. So I work in a rack, and the local people use Persian limes, or Numi Basra as they call them out there, in so many different dishes and drinks. So it's hot sweetened tea in the winter, cold tea in the summer. In soups and stews and tagines, which are really lovely. But when I was talking to them about using them to make gin, they were absolutely insistent that I use them correctly. And part of that is to pick out all the pips, because the pips give a bitterness, like a cyanide-y type taste in the gin. Yeah. So I'm sitting there at 8 o'clock in the morning, breaking all these Persian limes open, taking the pips out. They then go into the basket. Before we start, though, one of the key things, and this is something we picked up from the guys in Germany, was that we actually further reduce the alcohol content of the grain neutral spirit down to 29.5 or 30% ABV. I've worked out all the volumes before I start that. And that just gives a lot smoother spirit. That's, the German guys were absolutely sort of insistent that, that's what I should do it at. And we think it works really well for us. Of course, there's a flip side to that. The flip side is that we can only make half the amount of gin per batch than if I was distilling at 60% ABV. But we think it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, we think it's worth it. The extra quality in the gin is certainly there. And if that's the reason, then it's certainly well worth it. And we've been very lucky today because you're actually in the middle of a distillation.
I am.
And I've got a bucket by my into which is dribbling beautiful, clear, crystal clear Jarrolds Gin. And I know every few minutes you'll need to...
Which is going to be soon.
Yeah, you'll need to empty the bucket and do a recording of ABV
Absolutely,
and time and literage. So hopefully we'll get away with it.
Yeah.
And just to come on to those Persian limes, I know Nichola, when you visited the shop, and I can't remember when it was, last year sometime.
Must have been June last year. You were one of our earliest customers.
Yeah, you came in with Jarrolds Gin, and you also came in with some of the Persian limes.
I did.
And they were astounding things because they are dark, hard, walnut type fruits.
Yep.
But when opened, when cracked open, they release such an intense,
wonderful flavour,
beautiful flavour, aroma. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm not surprised you're using them in the gin.
Yeah,
and certainly it brings a beautiful flavour to the gin.
You're absolutely right. I think one thing we're quite conscious of is that we don't have, although the gin is very juniper forward, and again we use probably twice as much juniper as most other distillers do as well, and that's another slight difference. That brings a couple of things to our gin. It obviously makes it very juniper forward. I'm very traditional. I believe that's what a gin should be, juniper forward. But although we use strong flavours throughout the rest of the gin, like the Persian limes, we don't feel that anything is particularly in your face. We feel we've got a really nicely balanced gin. Yeah. When people are tasting it, that people pick out different notes. Some people pick out the coriander or the cardamom. Some people get a little hint of the ginger from the calamus root. Yeah. Some people get the grains of paradise. So yeah, it's very varied, and it's very dependent on people's own palates, of course, and what they're...
But it is a well-balanced gin, I agree entirely, that there are nothing kicks you in the face.
No. Yeah.
Everything's there. Yeah. If you have a palate to find it, it's
that's right.
Yes, that's right. And everyone's different.
So it's a beautiful gin.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I know, as well as Jarrolds London Dry Gin, you make 2 slow gins.
We do.
Based on the Jarrolds Gin, London Dry Gin.
Use that gin.
And you make a slow gin with berries that you buy.
Yeah.
But you also make a limited edition with berries that you forage.
That's right.
Yes, we do.
And I know you're heavily involved in it. And do I remember rightly, you picked how many kilograms of slows last year?
Last year was 130. Yeah.
And you do, they're quite prickly.
Yeah.
So you do end up with sort of like ragged arms. But
as any slow pickers will know, they are not the easiest berries to pick, are they?
No.
And they are very small, so 100 odd kilograms is a lot of picking.
Yeah.
But well worth it because your limited edition slow gin is absolutely beautiful.
Oh yeah, that's right. You get a really good flavour.
On its own, it's beautiful just as a sipping spirit. But I know, Jamie, you told us today that you now recommend Fentiman's orange tonic.
Yeah, absolutely.
With it,
lovely.
Or a bitter lemon.
Yeah.
Or just straight into a glass of prosecco. Also very nice.
It's very extremely popular.
Spirit, isn't it? And it's a beautiful spirit.
So you know, slow gin. I love slow gin. We've made it for years as well. My grandmother introduced me to that in Cambridgeshire many years ago, and it's always been a favourite of mine. And I think. Again, people's palates are different. I like a dry, slow gin, but I know people like a slightly sweeter one. So that's essentially a large part of the difference between the two gins, the two slow gins.
Because you don't add sugar, do you, to your limited?
No, we do, but not as much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to add a little bit because they are so dry.
But it's not a sweet slow gin.
No, it isn't.
It's a nicely sort of balanced slow gin.
Yes,
a liqueur.
That's right. And the versatility of it. I mean, it's so much associated with hip flasks, winter, and shooting, and that kind of stuff, or just cheese and chocolate, after dinner in the winter. But we love it as a gin and tonic. It's a little bit lighter. So our ABV on our current batch of limited edition slow gin is 34.6%.
Yep.
So that's quite a lot higher than a lot of slow gins there are. But it's also a little bit lighter than our gin and most other gins as well.
And lovely with tonic.
Beautiful,
and
yes.
But that's what makes it a
slices of
lovely
orange.
afternoon drink, a
It's
little bit lighter.
Long drink as well.
Yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely.
Really
So
nice.
a Fentiman's a Valencian orange tonic, or the Fever Tree Clementine orange tonic, with a couple of slices of blood orange, a few blackberries or raspberries thrown in there. It's stunning. It's an absolutely lovely long drink.
It is. It is. And just getting back to Jarrolds London Dry for a moment. That too is a very versatile drink.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
a beautiful gin and tonic. Tom Collins, Negroni.
Yeah, it makes a
whatever
fabulous
you want to do
Negroni with the calamus root in there.
It does make a really good Negroni. So,
and it shines through all the different tonics that you can get nowadays.
It does.
That's
it complements them beautifully. All the tonics complement the gin beautifully, and it just balances very well. Doesn't it?
And that was kind of one of the briefs, in fact, that we gave ourselves. When we created the gin, we wanted something that you could have as a single measure in a bar. We were a bit fed up going in. I mean, this was years ago. Bear in mind, this was 3.5, 4 years ago, and there wasn't as many gins around when we started thinking about this. But we were a bit fed up going in and just having a gin and tonic single measure, and not really being able to taste the gin through the tonic. And then the barman or barmaid saying to us, "Would you like a double?" Well, actually, not really. We'd kind of just like to have something that we can taste as a single measure. And so that was what drove us to have a gin full of flavour, juniper forward, high in alcohol strength as well. And I think it works really well. It works really well with almost every tonic that we've tried. And of course, again, that's about people's palates. That's about finding your mixer, finding out what you want, what you like. It's great with a cucumber tonic, cucumber and mint tonic. Fowington's, which is an East Sussex based tonic producer, they do a lovely range of tonics, and their English Garden tonic, which is cucumber and mint, is absolutely fabulous with it as well.
It is really nice.
But I've had people tell me they love it with rose lemonade and soda water and elderflower cordial. There's a huge range of mixers out there to go well.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Welcome.
I know that the bucket
bucket's filling
fast, and the next recording needs to be made. So thank you for hosting us.
No, thank you very much.
Fantastic
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Showing us the still and giving us your time this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we look forward to coming back at some point.
Absolutely, you're always welcome here.
Thank you, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.